Last week, India announced the National Mission on Edible Oils Oil Palm. This rupees 11,040 crore project aims at maximizing cultivation and production of oil palm in India. What is oil palm cultivation? Oil palm cultivation refers to growing trees that produce vegetable oil primarily used for cooking. At present, oil palm is grown in around 13 states in the country, but we import maximum of our requirements. In fact, vegetable oil is among India's top 10 largest imports, and palm oil comprises almost 60% of all vegetable oil imports. As part of its new mission, the Union government has proposed cultivation of oil palm in the northeast as well as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The government wants to replicate the so-called success story of oil palm cultivation in the Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. But have we actually examined the scale of impact that promoting a monocrop cultivated by destroying forests could cause? I'm Prajakta Joshi, and in today's episode of Indie Journal Made Simple, we are going to understand India's new palm oil mission and why it is being red flagged. Let's first see what the National Mission on Edible Oils encompasses. The ambitious scheme has proposed to cover an additional area of 6.5 lakh hectare for oil palm till the year 2025-26. Thereby, it is aiming to reach the target of 10 lakh hectares ultimately. In the year 2019-20, India produced around 2.5 lakh tons of crude palm oil. Under this mission, it is expected to go up to 11.20 lakh tons by 2025-26 and up to 28 lakh tons by 2029-30. Do you see the difference? But oil palm cultivation is a tricky subject. It's difficult to lure farmers into it as the trees don't bear fresh fruit bunches from which oil is extracted for the first 4 years. Being a monocrop, oil palm trees are also more susceptible to diseases. To address this, the government has introduced incentives for farmers. For the first time, Government of India will give a price assurance for oil palm farmers. This will be known as viability price. The assistance given to farmers for planting material will also be increased from Rs 12,000 per hectare to Rs 29,000 per hectares. Farmers from the Northeast and Andamans will also be provided additional incentives than the rest of the country. Now, why is India pushing for self-sustenance in the palm oil industry? India is one of the largest buyers of palm oil in the world. Around 98% of palm oil consumed in India has to be imported. So all that processed food like instant noodles and chips that we love, India has to import tons of palm oil every year to keep its production going. However, pandemic and rising import costs have affected imports since last year. In 2020, India's palm oil imports fell to 7.21 million metric tons from 9.4 million metric tons in 2019. Industry experts have estimated the imports to remain low this year as well. India cut its basic import duty on crude palm oil to address this. It was cut to 10% from 15% effective from June 30th for a period of 3 months. This move did bring down retail prices of edible oils to an extent. It is said that to win over all these difficulties, the Indian government decided to go Atmanirbhar and launch the roadmap to increase the domestic production of palm oil by boosting oil palm cultivation. But it is also being viewed in the context of another recent development. Recently, Baba Ramdev's Patanjali group-led Ruchi Soya planned to start oil palm plantations in Assam, Tripura and other northeastern states. Interestingly, as mentioned before, the new mission's focus is on growing oil palm in northeast. Well, of course, it must be just a coincidence, right? At present, oil palm cultivation in the country is spread across states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Odisha, Assam, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, etc. Domestic oil palm cultivation is largely led by big players like 3F Industries and Godrej Agrovet. These companies mostly engage with smallholder farmers. However, this will change with the plan to increase domestic cultivation. And that is one of the major reasons why experts and environmentalists have strongly questioned the mission. One can only imagine what would happen if extensive land holdings are cleared in the ecologically sensitive areas like Northeast and Andamans for increased oil palm cultivation. To understand the environmental damage caused by oil palm cultivation better, let's look at the example of Indonesia, the largest exporter of crude palm oil in the world. One of the standard practices in oil palm cultivation involves burning an area after felling forests or draining peat swamps. This has been leading to burning of acres of forest land at a time in Indonesia. While this causes deforestation, The burning of forests also releases stored carbon into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. Moreover, it highly affects animal species dependent on these forests. Species like orangutans have been known to be displaced in Indonesia's forests because of this. As per a database by Global Forest Watch, Indonesia lost 16% of its tree cover, or nearly 26 million hectares of forests between 2001 and 2018. A great deal of this has been attributed to oil palm cultivation. It has also stated that India lost nearly 38.5 thousand hectares of tropical forest between 2019 and 2020, making up nearly 14% loss of its tree cover. In this situation, how responsible is it to promote a crop that will lead to more deforestation in such eco-sensitive areas? And the deforestation is not the only environmental challenge here. Oil palm is known to be a water-intensive crop, which as per studies takes up to 80 gallons per tree per day. To understand why this is huge, let's compare it to the coconut palms that require up to 30 gallons per tree per day. A report by The Wire published in 2018 also cites a Stanford study that says oil palm plantations threaten water quality. Apart from these direct problems, there is a possibility that the oil palm cultivation could intensify the already existing conflict over forest land rights in India. Several communities are directly dependent on forests across India for their lives and livelihoods. Clearing large patches of forest for cultivation could create more issues of displacement for indigenous people. Haven't we already asked them to leave their lands enough for our dams, roads and railways? We also came across a Hindustan Times article while researching that pointed out another very important issue in this context. The report stated that as the definition of area under forest covers is ambiguous in India, the oil palm plantations, which are actually created by large-scale deforestation, would be classified as forests. This will replicate what is happening in countries like Indonesia. The palm oil plantations will thus replace the biodiversity-rich primary forest areas. Oil palm is a monoculture crop. Monoculture crops do increase the efficiency of cultivation and are economically profitable as well. However, they have devastating effects on the environment as they destroy the diversity of the area. Moreover, they make crops more susceptible to diseases, as was seen in the case of Irish potato famine when potato crop was destroyed due to disease and millions died of starvation. The effects of monocrop can be seen in India as well in cases of sugarcane and cotton. Of course, that would be a topic for another different video. Palm oil has also been a nightmare for India's indigenous oilseed farmers, like those who grow groundnuts. With India promoting palm oil for decades, India's farmers have been suffering. The situation is now bound to get worse. Despite all these concerns, it's difficult to stop the demand for palm oil considering the extent of its usage. Palm oil is said to be an ingredient in at least 50% of the products used by Indians, ranging from food to cosmetics to toiletries and so on. With high import duties on crude palm oil, companies have welcomed the domestic cultivation. While the ideal situation would be to decrease our dependence on palm oil and find alternatives, the question that we need to ask right now is, could palm oil cultivation be sustainable? Well, it can certainly be cultivated in a sustainable way if it's grown without clearing out vast stretches of forest land. It has been recommended that oil palm trees should be grown in agriculturally usable lands only. In 2017, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil had stated that around 12% of the total palm oil produced in the world met sustainability standards. Unfortunately, amid increasing demand and overexploitation of palm oil, there is no recent data available to see if the sustainability in the cultivation has continued or not. But is India planning a sustainable cultivation of oil palm? Well, the specifics of the National Mission on Edible Oil does not point to any such provisions. Moreover, considering the track record of the current government when it comes to environment, may it be with regard to the Environmental Impact Assessment, that is EIA, or the controversial coal block auctions among many other examples, it is highly improbable that we are even thinking of cultivating oil palm sustainably. At the end of the day, in monocrop culture like this, the economy might win. However, the sustainability of local species, biodiversity and environment are always to lose. If you like this video, do share it with your friends. For more explainers, interviews and reportages, do not forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Also download our app Indie Radio for daily news, podcasts and audiobooks.